So now coming up is the Mini GP50 class. The riders are waiting. They're in the final discussions. 2 team members, 2 helpers, and 2 their friends. Ollie Sims giving a thumbs up there to Austin Johnson, who makes his way onto the grid. Look at Alan there, back of your picture, in crutches at the moment after he got his ankle ran over at Silverstone at round 1 of the British Superbikes Championship. Taylor Lawrence as well, retired FAB rider, making an appearance once again, but this time just as a helper, just watching along as he looks back in his PBM Ducati jacket at the back of your picture there. But on the front row of the grid this time around, you're going to have Marco Holt with Luke Fitch at the number 7 alongside him. Marco Holt looked incredibly strong in qualifying, and now he looks like he wants to take the race win.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited to see what this grid is going to look like. We've got some amazing riders here as we are about to get the formation lap underway here for the Mini GP50s.
Marco Holt looks to have some issues there in the grid, maybe just wanting to get back in his grid. He's stalled it on the grid, actually, I think Marco Holt has, so he's asking for some sort of help or some sort of communication to ask for help there. I don't know if his bike's even running at the moment, or he's just wanting some checks from that pole position. So the bike is running once again, and now they set off on their warm-up lap, where it's going to be Marco Holt who starts the race from pole position from Luke Fitchett in second. Archie O'Brien starts the race from third, with Wilson Delt, Sam Gardner on the fourth and fifth position. Frankie Watson joins Sam Gardner on the third row of the grid, with Austin Johnson and Byron Johnson taking up a whole row to themselves. So brothers taking up a row of the grid, with Matthew Thomas, Harley Baker in what is 9th and 10th. Chloe Gleason starts the race from 11th, with Jensen Bishop in 12th. Travis Shaw starts from 13th, and Taylor Thompson and Dylan Tureen started in 14th and 15th. So that is the merged qualifying results from earlier on today, and Annabelle McCarthy, Riley Paisley, Lucy Curtis and Murray Simmons and Ollie O'Gorman rounds off our grid. It's a packed grid here for race 1. It's their first race of the weekend for these guys. It's been a big build up for this race, and now they're all going to be waiting and all going to be looking on for the lights going out, where already we have some issues, and that is a slight issue with one of the motorcycles. It could be a chain issue with it being that side of the bike. We've seen it in the past that chains have came off, as now we'll wait to see a little check up, and now whatever the issue was, it is terminal, and now they're getting pushed off the grid. So Marco Holt, number 58, he did have the Minion helmet. Now it's a monster helmet. Will he be a monster this time around? We're going to have to wait and see. Number 58 machine on pole position. Luke Fitchett alongside him in the front row of the grid. They're both going to be wanting it. They look to the lights, and the lights go out, and we go racing as Marco Holt leads the way in a pretty nice start there. Is it too good to be true? We're going to have to wait to find out. But Luke Fitchett, second position. Still a pretty good gap between the two. So right now, Mark Holt can run his own lines, as Ollie O'Gorman there at the back of your picture, fighting further down the field. Lucy Curtis having their own battle with Dylan Tureen, as we await for all the riders to make it through cleanly, as Taylor Tomlinson as well having a good battle, as Wilson Delts trying to make his way into second position, currently in third, as Archie O'Brien dropping down to fourth position on that first lap, as both the Byron and Austin Johnson brothers battle as well. So battles all the way throughout the field, as we expected to see, because, well, we have 20 bikes on the grid.
Absolutely chaotic first lap. I thought there'll be a few more overtakes, but happy with what we've got so far. So we end the first lap here, and we have a look towards the front of the grid here with Luke Fitchett ahead of Wilson Dilks. This battle is just finished off here by Archie O'Brien, and that's Superman helmet. He came first in the race earlier, I believe. But I think that was O'Brien having a look there on the inside of Dilks, but not doing anything just yet. They heard their way down the straight here and in towards this next corner. Just all started to tighten up and snake their way through this little S section. Down the Simpson straight we go with these riders, and we'll see if maybe we'll have an overtake in just a moment or two. And we look back there you go, there's an overtake there, and I believe that is, I'm not entirely sure.
Annabelle McCarthy finding the way through on Lucy Curtis there. So some of our female riders here at FAB, it's great seeing the amount of females that we have racing here. They've been coming in force over the past couple of years. Of course, the involvement of the likes of FHO Racing has allowed more females to take part. But Marco Holt leading the way on the 58 machine. 1.9 seconds back is Luke Fitchett as Wilson Douts continues to defend from Archie O'Brien in third position. Austin and Byron Johnson are battling for fifth and sixth, with Frankie Watson, Sam Gardner, Matthew Thomas, Chloe Gleeson rounding out our top 10 in this field. And now in the 11th position, Harley Baker, Travis Shaw, Jensen Bishop and Taylor Thompson, with Dylan Tureen rounding the point scoring positions. Annabelle McCarthy found her way through on Lucy Curtis, with Murray Simmons and Ollie O'Gorman rounding out our racers that are still running around the circuit, as Riley Paisley had issues on the warm-up lap with his machine. So Marco Holt leading the way, 2.3 seconds at the line, as it looks like the battle really is for second position at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. You see all three of these bikes just in their positions right now, but I'm sure they'll be desperate to make a move there. Archie O'Brien just on the tail end of this battle, having a look to try and see if he can maybe use a different light here. He looks to be out a bit wide there to then get the cut back in and maybe try and get the exit here down the Simpson Straight, but I don't think he would be able to get into the last chicane. That'll be a bit too rough to just try and stick into the slipstream throughout these next two straights. They flick their way up the gears towards turn number one here, and they're starting to build a good lap here. Marco Holt at the moment, he's disappeared off down the road. He's almost 3 seconds ahead of Luke Fitchett in the number 7. So we continue to follow this battle of Fitchett, Dilt and O'Brien.
Yep, Marco Holt, fastest lap of the race, 46.5. But now Austin leading Byron through on the two Johnson Racing machines, and just behind them we have Frankie Watson, and that's Sam Gardner having a fall there. So Sam Gardner, disappointing from him, and that is the exhaust that he's just picked up off the ground. So very, very disappointing. That must have been a high side, or the bike must have flipped for that amount of damage to be done. But he looks okay, he is on his feet, and that is the main thing. That is the main thing which matters. 8th position Sam Gardner was sitting in, but Austin Johnson still leading Byron through. He was showing Byron quite the lot at the moment, but Archie O'Brien trying to find any way through Wilson Douts. And now this is the thing about these bikes, you really have to find an opening early on in the corner, because almost every single corner around the circuit seems to close up and lines start to merge.
Yeah, there's definitely ways to try and get past your opponent, but it's all about knowing the circuit well. That's also one thing, and especially maybe making a move to one side to then try and make it a couple of corners then down the road. We see the two Johnson brothers maybe doing a little bit of mind games here to try and maybe block off Watson there in behind, I believe that is. They have followed through now, heading now down towards the Simpson Straight. I think that's O'Gorman there ahead of moving to one side. Oh, that's a bit of a tight one there. So I think Frankie Watson will now be held up. No, there goes O'Gorman to the right hand side.
Yep, Ollie O'Gorman getting out of the way for these riders, as Austin Johnson still leads the way with Byron behind, and a great ride from Frankie Watson. We've seen it a couple of times last year that he could just shine at certain circuits, and this seems to be one of them. Can we see it for the rest of the year? We're going to have to wait and find out. We'll have the full seasons of coverage of the FAB-Racing Minibike British Championship on the platform which you're currently watching on the Motorsport Radio Facebook and YouTube channel, and the FAB-Racing Facebook and YouTube channel. If you're joining us, you've joined us midway through the Mini GP50 race 1 for these guys, with Wilson Douts right now defended from Archie O'Brien and defending for the final spot on the podium position. Luke Fitchett has managed to bridge the gap ever so slightly. 1.1 seconds is the gap between this duo of riders. So Luke Fitchett leading out the way in second position, with Marco Holt still dominant at the front.
Yeah, so there's about a 4.5 second gap between Holt and Fitchett, but I'm pretty sure the number 7 will not be focusing on the race win. He'll be just trying to keep that second place and trying to grab the most points possible from that one there. There's one of the riders getting lapped there, but our main focus here is the battle between Dilt and O'Brien. That's the Superman in the Superman helmet. They're looking to try and latch onto the back of our number 85 of Wilson Dilton. Just try and see if he can get the podium here. There'll definitely be back markers there, like the one in there, just trying to get through there. And that'll be a bit of a hold up there for Wilson Dilton, but both of them easily past there, and you see how much the gap has instantly closed up. There's about 0.6 of a second there, and then once the back marker gets involved, you can see it close right up there and making their way. And let's see if O'Brien can then get past Wilson Dilton.
Yep, currently around a 0.4 of a second gap between these two riders. It looks like just about one bike length between the two as we await to see at the line this time around what's it going to be. 2 laps to go remain in this motorcycle race as Wilson Dilton and Archie O'Brien are separated by just 0.2 of a second. He's managed to close it in even further than what we originally thought, so a great run there. So Wilson Dilton still defending, still showing the way as Marco Holt at the front still leads the way. 4.7 seconds, a little update on his gap. Austin Johnson has been overtaken by his brother Byron Johnson that time around, as these two riders last time around were lapping the likes of Annabelle McCarthy and Dylan Tureen, who are having their own battles further down the field. But there is your race leader. There is Marco Holt, who will lead the way onto this last lap of the race. He passes Travis Shaw to take the last lap flag. He comes across Ollie O'Gorman. He sits up a little bit trying to find any way past. He picks round the outside. Can he make it work? It's just one lap. It's just to bring it home at this point. Marco Holt, he's been through a lot. He had a leg injury last season. He broke his leg after a crash in Spain. It destroyed his championship hopes here in Britain, and now he powers it out through to keep them hopes alive this year. He comes around the straight run towards the S's and then powers his Metrikit 50cc machine through the gearbox before shifting it back down again. It's a great circuit for these motorcycles. It's a great testing track for these riders. It's tight, it's twisty, and now Marco Holt, he's came out on top of it. He comes across to take the race win. Number 1 signal goes up in the air. The checker flag is waiting for him, and wow, he'll be happy with that one. Punching the bike and hitting the bike in celebration, saying well done for it. Luke Fitchett comes home in second with Wilson Dilton in third, as now the battle continues as there's Austin Johnson with an issue, it appears there, trying to get the bike out the corner. He was not in the power band at all. He's allowed Frankie Watson through, and now Byron Johnson, he's bet his brother, so is Frankie Watson, and Austin Johnson goes from 5th to 7th. So disappointing from him there, but great race.
Yeah, so brilliant there race overall. Marco Holt is your winner in that one. Luke Fitchett on the podium. He'll be joined alongside Wilson Dilton. Archie O'Brien just a second short on that one, with Byron Johnson ahead of Frankie Watson. Austin Johnson, unfortunately, with that issue at the end of the race, he'll be 7th ahead of Matthew Thomas, Harley Baker and Chloe Gleeson. Jensen Bishop will be in 11th ahead of Travis Shaw, with Taylor Tomlinson, Dylan Toren and Annabelle McCarthy finishing off the points.
Yep, so a superb race there. A great ride there from Marco Holt, and a dominant ride there from him. Nobody can stop him but himself. I think it's going to be things that are going to come later on in the weekend. Disappointing race once again from Sam Gardner, having it off and crashing out of the race. So two races in a row really it's been from Sam Gardner, so hopefully he can get things sorted. So coming up on the circuit, it's race 2 of the Mini GP50s. A massive grid once again here at round 3 at Red Lodge, and it's great to see such young talent taking part in this class.
Yes, it was absolutely fantastic seeing all these riders heading out onto the circuit. There's Marco Holt just warming up his tyres and taking that pole position spot, and there he is with his lovely purple and green helmet with his black and pink overalls. So I'm really excited to see what will be happening this time in the Mini GP50.
Yeah, we can hear the revs bouncing, a shake of the head there, it seems, from Marco Holt. So he's trying to push that bike forward and backwards, trying to get it bump started ever so slightly, so it seems that it likes stalling whenever it's just sitting there. But yeah, loads of talent on this grid. Is Marco Holt starting in pole position. He'll be heading out to Spain for some running this year as well. Luke Fitchett alongside him, the master of defending it seems in recent times. Archie O'Brien there just behind Marco Holt, looking at his rear tyre with the Spider-Man helmet. He'll be hoping for another great race. Lee Klaus telling all the parents, all the helpers to make their way off the circuit before we get started for the warm-up lap for the Mini GP50 race 2. And in qualifying, it was a fantastic qualifying as Marco Holt showed his form and showed his way onto the front row, taking pole position with 47.070. Luke Fitchett joins him on the front row of the grid as Bill Harris looks on for this race. But Archie O'Brien starts the race from third place with Wilson Douts alongside him on the second row of our grid. Sam Gardner starts in fifth place with Frankie Watson beginning the race from sixth. Austin and Byron Johnson will take up the next row of our grid in 7th and 8th, with Matthew Thomas and Harley Baker in 9th and 10th. Chloe Gleeson, our first ever female FAB race winner, starts in 11th, with Jensen Bishop beginning the race from 12th as he moves up from the Minimoto class. Travis Shaw and Taylor Thompson in 13th and 14th, with Dylan Tureen, Annabelle McCarthy, Riley Paisley, Lucy Curtis, Murray Simmons and Ollie O'Gorman rounding out our 20 bike grid. You can see Luke Fitchett's dad there with the flat cap. Flat cap Fitchett is on the grid as Marco Holt still having some issues with his Mini GP 50 it seems, but the 58 machine on pole position with the tension building here on the grid. It's going to be an exciting one. It's one of the most looked forward to classes here at FAB. The grid has exploded. It's the names of the future. It's the ones to watch on your televisions in 10 years time, as now the riders will look to the lights and we will go racing. The lights go out and we go racing. Marco Holt, a perfect start, or is it too good to be true? We'll wait to find out. Marco Holt leading the way on the 50. What a start that was Luke Fitchett in second position at the moment. Archie O'Brien in third place, and Matthew Thomas as well. A good start from him further down the field. And there's Jensen Bishop defending from Finlay Paul Hill, who makes his start after being away to a Whittington, I believe, yesterday. So Finlay Paul Hill, it's great seeing him being on the grid. We've seen how fast he's been all season and last year, as it looks like a bad start has been from Byron Johnson, with Matthew Thomas getting ahead of him, as there is the move that we were waiting to see from Byron Johnson, now ahead of Matthew Thomas. So all the riders ahead very, very clean on this first lap of the Mini GP50 class. Yeah, looking very, very clean there. Marco Holt currently at the top of the leaderboard here, and we now look at Luke Fitchett just ahead of RG O'Brien in the Spider-Man helmet. Such an iconic helmet in the FAB-Racing paddock, and we head in towards 180 degree here. This doesn't matter for second place at the moment. They head now down towards this little cambered section and in towards the Warren, down the hill, and then powering on the way towards the longest straight on the circuit, in towards this tricky long left-hander. And can RG O'Brien try anything in the early stages of this race? He's just going to cut it in the inside here and make his way now down towards Simpson Straight, tucking into that slipstream. Can he do absolutely anything? I think he's just going to try and stick back for the moment and just see if he can analyse his opponent. What's his name? Flat Cap Fitchett at the front on the number 7. He's known for wearing, his whole family's known for wearing the flat cap around the paddock and all in the social media pictures. So it's great to see some kind of tradition going on there, it seems. But another tradition is these two riders battling. We've seen it all season and last year as well. But Marco Holt at the front, 2.4 seconds is the gap now. So you really have to wonder, if these two begin to battle, what is going to happen? Is it going to allow Holt to clear off into the distance, or does the likes of Archie O'Brien, just stuck behind Fitchett at the moment, have the pace for later on in the race? Because still 9 laps remain as Finlay Paul Hill makes his way inside the top 10 further down in the order. But there is Frankie Watson
following Austin Johnson, and now Matthew Thomas still following behind Byron Johnson after he overtook him on the first lap of the race. So Byron Johnson, 6th position at the moment. A great start there from him. Finlay Paulhill making his way into 8th place. Another 2 positions made up on that last lap ahead of Sam Gardner and Harley Baker, who now rounds out our top 10. So very, very competitive field once again. 20 riders, as a good start it seems from George Ackerman, who now makes up 2 positions into 16th place.
Yeah, absolutely. We said George Ackerman starting from the back of the field. We're currently focused on this battle here. I think that's Byron Johnson just trying to fend off from I believe that is Matthew
George Ackerman there.
George Ackerman off in there, as we just say. I'm not sure if that's a complete off there, but he's currently on the side of the road. His hands up in the air. He's trying to get something going. I think he's absolutely frustrated, and he is off the bike. He's absolutely fuming with what's ever happened. I'm not entirely sure if that could be an accident or if that's a mechanical failure. He seems to be trying to get back on. And he's got to make way for a slow space. I think he's gone off there so it's not mechanical failure, or he would have been out of the race. We now continue with Luke Fitchett just trying to fend off from Archie O'Brien as they head towards now the final chicane. Archie O'Brien dropping a little bit back here, so maybe I think he's trying to build a little bit of confidence in himself, trying to work out where he's going wrong on the circuit, and then he'll try and catch up to the back of the number 7 of Luke Fitchett and try and move. I think there's a little bit of a battle up ahead there as they catch up to this second place battle catches up to Casey O'Gorman.
Yep, Ollie O'Gorman at the back of the field getting lapped at the moment by Luke Fitchett at the 180 degrees corner. But now we await to see, as there is Mark Holt making his way through the field. Once again, the 58 machine now coming towards Riley Paisley on the number 17 machine, a bright white bike for him. But Mark Holt, dominance from him so far in this race. And what a start. It's been 6 laps still remain in this race. They got 4.5 seconds at the front. The rear tail unit seems to be shaking about ever so slightly, but it seems like that's the norm for Mark Holt. But remember, talking about last season, it just seems the way the brackets are on that. But Mark Holt, dominance rounds. There's Finlay Paulhill. Disappointment there from him. He comes to the track today kicking the grass, and disappointment, it seems, more than anything at the moment. So he'll sit on the tyre wall and he'll watch all of his friends, all of his rivals complete this race as Dale Baldwin gets some incredible photos, which I'm sure you'll be able to see on the FAB-Racing Facebook page, Race Report, and his own website later on after this weekend has concluded. But Luke Fitchett, he's managed to bridge a gap between himself and Archie O'Brien at the line last time around. It's 2.6 seconds between the 2 riders. So Fitchett looking strong in this later stages of the race.
Yeah, absolutely. Marco Holt still out in the lead, but Luke Fitchett just coming up to our timing lines, 5.3 seconds behind. So Marco Holt really holding out his lead here. Archie O'Brien starting to fall back a little bit too, but Luke Fitchett will just be holding his own, trying to manage his own race with 4 laps to go. That number 7 is just going to do what he can to stick in second place and get the most amount of points as possible.
Yep, he's going to want as much points for the championship. This is round 3 here at Red Lodge. We've had a double header so far this year at Lid, and it's been a very busy start to the season for these riders. Now Annabelle McCarthy having the battle forward down the field as Luke Fitchett actually gets held up by that battle, as of course no blue flags here at FAB-Racing. It's all from the riders doing the lapping to make his way past safely and cleanly, but that will help Archie O'Brien ever so slightly to try and bridge that gap, because now that gap is just 2 seconds. But will Archie O'Brien get held up at the 180 degrees corner before we head onto the back straight? Now we will approach Annabelle McCarthy. Will he get held up, or will he manage to find a way through, find the gap? And yes, he does. That was perfect. That is what you want when you're lapping riders. But now 3 laps to go in this race. A little look behind him is the 21 machine of Dylan Tureen. A whole new colour scheme for him this year. A bright blue and red motorcycle. It looks great on the circuit, and he looks great on it. A lot of development from him since he moved up from the Minimoto class. But there is Taylor Thompson. He's been going very good this weekend. 3 classes he's racing in, so a lot of track time there from him on this Red Lodge circuit. Currently in 13th position, and now Archie O'Brien is coming to lap him with 2 laps to go.
Yeah, so fantastic race so far, but yeah, Marco Holt still out the top here as we see Archie O'Brien lapping Taylor Tomlinson, who seems to be struggling a little bit in this class, but I'm sure he'll build on that bike and build up his confidence, and hopefully he'll be challenging for podiums and wins later on in the season. We now swap back to Marco Holt, currently at the lead of this race here in at Red Lodge Circuit. They make their way now in towards to the final chicane and on towards the final lap of this race.
Yep, now getting past Travis Shaw and Jensen Bishop. He will do in the final lap. He'll use his head. They'll try to get it clean and they'll try to get it home because he leads the way by 9.2 seconds and claims the fastest lap of the race last time round.
Yeah, so fantastic there. But he's been so amazing. Oh, there's someone off there, but we now follow one of our other riders. That's the number 25 of Chloe Gleason, followed by Ollie O'Gorman. But yeah, fantastic from Marco Holt. He's got the fastest lap at the moment with a 45.7, and the 58 will come around the next corner and towards the Simpson Straight. Marco Holt towards the final corner. He's got one corner to go, and Marco Holt will grab 25 points here in the Mini GP50 class. He takes the win in Red Lodge, and a fantastic second race. He'll be followed up by Luke Fitcher coming across the line just there, and Archie O'Brien in the Superman helmet. Fantastic for the 91s. That's your podium finish. Austin Johnson, I believe, will be coming home in fourth, and there is your winner. Marco Holt is going to be taking 25 points ahead of Flat Cap Fitchett, and ahead Archie O'Brien will be in third, completing the podium of places. What's a race there, Lewis? Incredible.
Yep, an incredible run there from Marco Holt, and there is Finlay Paul Hill getting a lift from Luke Fitchett at the moment. A thumbs up to the camera, and Travis Shaw there on the outside of your picture, and yeah, all the riders, great friends around the paddock, and now you can see them coming back in. Quite impressive actually that they've both managed to squeeze on to that Mini GP50 machine. But on that final lap, it was Byron Johnson who retired from the race with a mechanical issue. Austin Johnson managed to finish, the older brother of course of Byron. But a great race there from these guys. Marco Holt winning by 8.5 seconds at the line from Luke Fitchett. Archie O'Brien rounds out our podium on the 91 machine with Austin Johnson. A great ride there from him in fourth. Frankie Watson consistently at the front this year in fifth place, with Matthew Thomas finishing the race in sixth position, with Sam Garner and Harley Baker batting for seventh and eighth. Chloe Gleason came home in ninth after making up a couple of positions that race, and Jensen Bishop rounds out our top 10 as he continues to develop on that Mini GP50 machine. But that was race 2 for the Mini GP50 class. Still one more race of the weekend for these guys to come up. The sun is out at the Red Lodge circuit, and still plenty of action to come up later on today. But I'm sure if race 3 is going to be like that, everyone is going to be happy.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a great race. I'm really excited to see if anyone builds their confidence for race 3, and hopefully we can see something dramatic coming from that race.
Now it is time for the final race of the weekend for the Mini GP50 grid. 20 bikes will make their way onto the Red Lodge circuit for the final time this weekend, for the final chance to take the race win. We've seen a lot of drama, we've seen a lot of action, and we've seen a lot of title contenders show their pace this weekend.
Yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic watching all these riders for the first time, especially like I said yesterday, it's the first time for a bike weekend for me. It's been absolutely fantastic watching these young riders trying to make their way either to the top leagues of MotoGP and the Bennett's British Superbikes, or just having some fun. It's been a fantastic paddock here, a really good vibe amongst everyone here. So many smiles, so many happy faces, and it's been fantastic to see, and this is why we love FAB-Racing.
Yep, 20 bikes. The grid has exploded this year. Only a handful of bikes on the grid last year, plenty of people have came to the front this year. Harley Baker trying to get his bike started there on the 24 machine. Hopefully he can get that restarted and hopefully can get that going before they head onto the grid, before the race gets underway. But checks being done, some of the bikes heading in into the holding area, and some of the parents making their way onto the circuit before we get out, and some sweeping also being done on where one of the bikes crashed earlier on. The Keats machine had an incident, crashed, and they're just making sure the track's completely safe for these guys. It's offline, of course, but all it takes is for you to get pushed wide and then you're on that patch.
Yeah, so as they make their way, they're sweeping just that away, just cleaning the track up. We don't want anything like we saw in the last race yesterday.
So heading in to this weekend championship was very close. Marco Holt led the championship from Luke Fitchett, and now Luke Fitchett, he's came back to the championship this year and he's looked incredibly strong from the get-go on that number 7 machine. Of course, such a famous number in motorcycle racing is the number 7 with Barry Sheen, racing with it many years ago. But who's going to get it? I mean, there's a handful of people right now that you could easily say will fight for the championship. The likes of Archie O'Brien, Luke Fitchett, Austin Johnson, Byron Johnson even, and Marco Holt, obviously. Loads of riders, loads of contenders, and so much talent makes their way onto this grid very shortly.
Oh, it's going to be absolutely so exciting to watch. I'm ready for a 5 or 6 bike battle all the way around this circuit. We've got a good couple of laps to commentate on, and I'm really looking forward to seeing all these guys going right at it. What would you say, side by side with the bikes?
Yeah, it's going to be side by side all the way throughout the race. We're going to see a pack race, I would think. A couple of riders may be able to break away, but we're going to have to wait and see. There is Danny Webb making his way across the circuit. Of course, Danny Webb now running the Danny Webb GP camp, doing a great job and coaching a lot of these riders throughout the off-season and helping them progress their riding styles, taking them out to Spain to their training camps, talking about their riding, talking about their braking, talking about their attitude towards racing. I was speaking to Danny just a couple of months ago, and he was explaining his philosophy is if he can teach the riders what not to do and the mistakes he made in his junior career, and then they're going to have more of a chance to make it further in the future. But there is Lee Klaus, of course, the Marshal, nominee of the Marshal of the Year from the Motorsport Awards back in January. So Lee Klaus doing a great job here at FAB, as does all the officials, all the medics. Everyone involved here does a great job of putting on such a safe and quickly, such a swift and safe event.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to really thank you all the people that have joined, that take their time to join us this weekend for a whole weekend. But if you just tuned in, you've missed quite a lot of dramatic racing here in FAB-Racing. For round 3, we get the Mini GP50 just underway in just a moment.
Well, now we're waiting for these guys to head out. There's a quarry nearby, just next to this circuit. Quite a lot of greenery next to this circuit, but don't worry, we will have motorbike racing for you guys if you're just tuning in here today. Of course, you can go back and watch all yesterday's races, all round 1 and 2 races, and catch up on any racing you may have missed today. You can watch it all live, free on the Motorsport Radio YouTube and Facebook channel, on the FAB-Racing YouTube, Facebook channels, and on TV now. If you head over to your Skybox, search FAB-Racing on it, and you'll see when the next available broadcast will be. You can watch these riders in full form soon live though, and it's going to be great. Who is going to be the next talent, who's going to be the next superstar, and who is going to be on the road to MotoGP?
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely fantastic just seeing these names. We just see them on our FAB-Racing timing screens, and just imagine seeing those guys in the top leagues. It's going to be so exciting, just following these careers and just seeing which these paths take them, where they take them to glory. Will they be winning championships in the top series? That's such an incredible thing to think about. I do wonder where these guys will be ended up, and I'm sure I'll be following them very, very closely.
Yep, and following very closely from the pole man Mark Holt will be Luke Fitchett, who will join him on the front row of the grid on the number 7 machine. Archie O'Brien will begin the race from 3rd position on the number 91 machine with, of course, Spider-Man helmet on. Wilson Delps will hopefully be beginning from 4th place, injured from a crash on Saturday's run. And Sam Garner will start the race from 5th with Frankie Watson alongside him on the 3rd row of the grid. In 7th position and 8th will be the Johnson brothers. Austin qualifying ahead of Byron this time out, with Matthew Thomas and Harley Baker in 9th and 10th. Chloe Gleason and Jensen Bishop in 11th and 12th, with Travis Shaw, Taylor Thompson and Dylan Tureen rounding out our top 15. Annabelle McCarthy and Riley Paisley will be in the next row of the grid, with Lucy Curtis, of course sister of Bradley Curtis, in 18th position, with Murray Simmons in 19th, and Ollie O'Gorman rounding out our massive 20 rider field. 2 warm-up laps this time around for the Mini GP50 class, so plenty of time to get their head back into the game.
Oh, absolutely. So that second one is going to be absolutely crucial. They can just suss out where the grip is, if what different lines they might take, so they don't have to explore that during the race. They know exactly what to do once those lights go out. We just follow our bikes heading all around the circuit. Wonderful camera shots here. We can see as they approach now round the back section of the circuit. That's the number 24 of Harley Baker, and through now round towards the final corner we will see our grid reform. So it's going to be Marco Holt once again on pole position. There he is, your front 3 of Holt, Fitchett and O'Brien, and I'm very excited to commentate this action, aren't you, Lewis?
Yep, everyone is around this circuit, and Frankie Watson, actually a slight issue there with his motorcycle. Hopefully he can get everything sorted. Hopefully we can get the action underway very soon. Everyone though has been looking forward to this one. It's great to see Wilson Delks making a start this race, pushing through the pain from yesterday's crash. Very, very brave from him. Next on the other side there was Austin Johnson. What's going to happen in this race though, we're going to have to wait and find out. Lee Klaus telling everyone exit the grid now. It's the final race of the weekend for the Mini GP50 class. The point to the light has been made. The lights will turn on and the lights go off and we go racing. And Marco Holt leading the way from the start. Luke Fitchett, pretty sluggish start there from him on the number 7 machine, but no positions were lost. Archie O'Brien in 4th position, with Wilson Delk still in that 3rd place. Frankie Watson losing some positions, dropping down to 5th, as there was Dylan Tureen getting overtaken by another one of the riders there further down the field. But Luke Fitchett making up positions and trying to make up time, most likely, on Marco Holt, because he's going to want this final race win. He's going to want this final race win in his pocket, and that final 25 points that he can claim here at Red Lodge. Archie O'Brien just in 4th position, and now the real question is, what pace is Wilson Doubts going to have? What pace is Luke Fitchett going to have? And what pace will Archie O'Brien have? Will they be able to catch up with Marco Holt? Because in race 2, Marco Holt's times were impeccable.
Yeah, absolutely. There should be very, very similar. If you now watch, that's Wilson Dilt, I believe, again fighting through the pain of yesterday's race, but he's doing really, really well. Just hang on in there with following Luke Fitchett in the number 7. They make their way now down the Warren and on towards the long straight. As having a look here at the move, there was Wilson Dilt just trying to pop his tyre there, looking on the left-hand side. But they make their way now into the hairpin and flip their way into the S's. Down the Simpson Straight they go, and I'm really excited to see what these guys are made of. The lap times will continue to start falling. The fuel burns off and the tyres get warmer and warmer, and the confidence will build and build in these riders. They head their way now in towards French Curve. It's going to be Marco Holt setting the fastest lap, so he's immediately going for it is the number 58. a 46.2 for Marco Holt. So immediately we'll go on the pace and really going for it.
Yep, there certainly are 9 laps to go in this race. The clock will tick down, the laps will go down very, very quickly here. Wilson does 85. He looks incredibly strong for a section. It's actually surprised me how these riders, especially Wilson Downs, with that pain, with his wrist, is able to keep hold of Luke Fitchett. Luke Fitchett's been getting a lot of coaching over the winter and over the first round from Sullivan Minson. I'm sure it'll be helping him much of the same this weekend. But Fitchett, a new colour scheme for him this season, and the same amount of speed, so quick. But now Holt, 1.8 seconds is the gap between Mark Holt and Luke Fitchett. Holt looked like he was going to be on track to win the championship last year, but a crash in Spain meant he broke his leg and he was out for the rest of the season and was not returning to his normal pace until now. This is what we're used to seeing from the 58 riders. Archie O'Brien in 4th place. Can he hop on the podium? We have to wait and find out, as there is Frankie Watson leading the 2 Johnsons away. Austin ahead of Byron though this time around. Austin Johnson using a normal clear visor, while Byron is using that tinted darkened visor with these sunny conditions. It's real great conditions for racing and quick lap times this time around.
Yeah, so they make their way now in towards the final corner. Austin Johnson doing really well there. He's now going to try and make inroads on Frankie Watson and maybe drag his brother up a bit. They make their way now in towards the next corner of Senna. A little look on the inside from Austin Johnson. They follow their way through and they're starting to go at it. Nip and tuck here. They make their way now round 180 of the hairpin. Through the warren they go and in toward downhill into the hairpin, and they follow their way now. It's going to be quite a close battle here. They're just going to continue to analyse their opponents here. They're heading in towards this long sweeping left-hander so great battle so far, but we were looking at a move there, and there you go. Like I said, it just clicks and it happened. Austin Johnson having looked there down the inside, but couldn't quite make the move there on Frankie Watson. Unfortunately, lost a little bit of momentum. We now switch to the leaders here. Actually, no, this is Luke Fitchett just ahead of Wilson Dilks and Archie O'Brien. They're still slightly spaced out, but I'm sure one of them will start pushing their way and trying to make their way up into that 2nd place, and maybe Archie O'Brien will be looking to get a bit more points and on the podium steps.
Yeah, that podium step, the all-important podium positions. The 91 machine trying his best, trying to keep with him, was a part of the Vision Track squad last year. And there's a rider down there up on his feet though straight away. That is great to see there from Murray Simmons, but he's up on his feet in his own steam at least. But yeah, it's a stricken rider, a stricken bike as well in the middle of the circuit, but he's going to try and pick up these bikes. Don't seem that heavy while you're riding them, but it's as soon as you try and pick them up after a crash where you realise the real weight of them. So he's waiting for a helper, waiting for one of the Roman marshals around the circuit to help them out. So lifts up the bike away from the circuit. But there is Wilson Douts. Wilson Douts missing a gear coming out of that corner, out of the power band. It seemed there from him. Allowed Archie O'Brien to steam through as they're getting past one of the back markers there. That was the number 17 of Riley Paisley that were getting through, but Wilson Douts now back ahead of Archie O'Brien. Can Archie O'Brien or can Wilson Douts catch back up to Luke Fitchett? It's going to be a tough one. 5 laps to go, and it's quite a significant gap.
Yeah, and already you can see there that the back markers are already getting in the way, so they're already playing a part in these battles. We continue to follow Wilson Dilk ahead of Archie O'Brien, heading in towards Senna, and now flicking their way in towards turn 3 and 4, following the rhythm towards 180.
So now at the front, Mark Holt still leads the way by 4.2 seconds. Just 2 seconds from Luke Fitchett. Just 2 seconds behind Luke Fitchett, though, as these two, Wilson Dilk and Archie O'Brien. One of the closest battles on the circuit at the moment. Further down the field, there's currently a battle between Chloe Gleeson and Travis Shaw for that 11th position, just outside the top 10. But 4 laps remaining in this race, catching more back markers now. They're going to have to be clean, they're going to have to be patient, and they're going to have to keep cool and calm. That's what you have to have inside you. But getting through George Ackerman there. Will Archie O'Brien get held up? He's going to try dive down the inside into Senna, into turn 2. He makes it work. 4 laps remaining in this race. Annabelle McCarthy now coming up for these guys into the 180-degree hairpin. They power it through towards the straight run after the Warren, and now it looks like held up ever so slightly was Wilson Dilk. So will this help O'Brien catch up and make his way into the podium?
Yeah, so as you can see there, Annabelle McCarthy just getting in the way slightly there, but it doesn't matter. I'm sure Archie O'Brien will just continue to follow inroads and try and make his way past Wilson Dilks, but it's not going to be easy. Wilson Dilks seems really fired up despite having that crash on the first race of the Minimoto 70 class, but he does seem on form at the moment, but I'm sure he's still in a little bit of pain after that accident, because I'm sure it did really have an indent on him. We now follow Marco Holt, currently in the lead of the race, 2 laps to go, and he's currently got a 5-second lead over Luke Fitcher, and the only person that can stop Marco Holt is himself. So he's going to have to try and just tone it down a bit, just tone it down and not do anything too silly. He doesn't want to be throwing it away from here as he makes his way now in towards the final corner. I thought there was going to be a little slip from the rear there, but onto the final lap we go with Marco Holt.
Yep, Marco Holt leading the way on the 58 machine. He's looked so strong, he's looked so dominant. Frankie Watson made the mistake on the last lap, dropping 2 positions down to 8th, but Marco Holt, wow, what a ride he's had this weekend. He's looked strong, he's looked confident, he's looked fast, he's looked near unstoppable. Currently at the line, 6.4 seconds was the gap between himself and Luke Fitchett. They've been rivals in the past and they'll be rivals in the future, I am sure. These guys are the talents of the futures. Marco Holt racing in the Mini GP50 class. He's trying to get his way through the final couple of corners to negotiate. He will find his way through Jensen Bishop, and he'll find his way as another race winner, and once again dancing his way through the line, copying the likes of Taylor Tomlinson's moves. So it's great to see these riders celebrating in fashion, that is for sure. Luke Fitchett now coming across the line, 2nd position for him for the number 7.9 seconds behind. Wilson Dilks managed to hold on to that 3rd place over Archie O'Brien, just 1 second separated them to the line, but wow, what a race win that was there, and what a ride that was from Marco Holt.
Yeah, so some fantastic battles throughout the whole entire race. We saw that massive battle between Wilson Dilks and Archie O'Brien, but it was the 85 to take the final podium spot. I'm really happy that Wilson Dilks is fine and dandy after that accident. He's managed to get on a podium and some great points for the championship. We now make our way onto the result. There you go, Marco Holt leading the way by 8 seconds over Luke Fitchett. So he'll be joined on the podium by Wilson Dills. Archie O'Brien there in P4 ahead of Austin Johnson. Finley Polhill from the back of the grid. He'll make his way into 6th place after not appearing yesterday. A fine return for him. Byron Johnson in the 7th ahead of Frankie Watson. So Watson fell a little bit towards the end there. Matthew Thomas and Chloe Gleason rounding out the top 10. So there are all our bikers making their way towards the final into the pit lane. So they'll head back to the paddock, and I'm sure they'll start unpacking their way and starting to head home.